Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pastor James McFaddin, and I am so happy that you're joining us this evening as we get ready to read the Christmas story and hear what the season is really about. Now, if you're like me, you've probably looked back at this past year and scratched your head a little bit, wondering what on earth has been going on. There's many ups and downs. There's fatigue from having to make decisions continuously all the time. We don't know what's happening tomorrow, and sometimes we don't even know what really even happened today, if we're honest with ourselves. And we've all sort of gone through a bit of a journey of maybe floundering a little bit, being scared of what does tomorrow look like, not being able to really have a good look into what's going to come down the pipe. We just don't always know, and that can actually produce some uncertainty in us. But what I find fascinating is that there is something beyond us that we can lean into when times are challenging or they seem uncertain. What I've found for my life, and what I'm sure some of you have found in yours, is that when we're challenged and we're struggling, it doesn't do any good to dig deeper into ourselves. In fact, we actually have to lift up our heads and look up. And for me, when I look up, I find the incredible communion that comes from knowing God and Him knowing me. And it seems so wild and crazy that something beyond ourselves can have an interaction with us and actually change the course of our lives. But we actually see this happening in the story of the birth of Jesus that we find in the book of Matthew in the Bible. And it's an incredible account of a young family's life totally changed and transformed by the introduction of a little one whose promised life exists to change the world. In fact, our world has been changed because of it. But more so, we see God, who seems to be so distant and out of touch, suddenly reach down and affect the world in such a profound manner. And there's so many intricate parts to this story. We have the bad guys who are trying to figure out where this baby is going to be born so that they can put him to death. And we see the sneaky work of a king trying to weasel his way into affecting the life of this little one. And we see a family uproot their entire lives and head a different direction for safety. And we see the governmental system of the world at that time being quite corrupt and trying to put their finger down on what's happening in the world. And we also see the birth of this little boy and how his birth is a symbol, a sign of salvation for the world in such a challenging era. So I want to share with you this evening the very thing that my own dad shared with me and my brothers every single year at Christmas. And he sat us all down before we even got to peek into the wrapping paper or see what was happening. He sat us all down and we cozied up by the fire and we got to listen to the story about the real meaning of Christmas, the birth of Christ. So sit back, relax a little bit, sit near the campfire or your wood stove or maybe a nice cozy lamp, and join in as we take a moment to reflect upon the story of the birth of Jesus. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they had come together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. And her husband Joseph, being just a man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife. For that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, saying, Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And when Joseph woke from his sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, the wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star, and when it rose and have come to worship him, we are desiring to find him. And when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all of Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where this Christ child was to be born. And they told him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least amongst the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler, who will shepherd my people Israel. And then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, that I too may come and worship him. And after listening to the king, they went on their way. And behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it had come to rest over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and they worshipped him. And then opening up their treasures, they offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they chose to depart to their own country by another way. Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, and he said, Rise and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he rose and he took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, Out of Egypt I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he became furious, and he sent forward a decree to have all the male children killed in Bethlehem and in that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the same time that he had ascertained from the wise men. And then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they were no more. But when Herod had died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Rise and take your child and his mother and go to the land of Israel. For those who sought the child's life are now dead. And he rose and he took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he had heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judah in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. And he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophet might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene. Now, you're probably thinking, that's a bit different of a story than I recall hearing in Sunday school, or maybe what you remember growing up hearing when you were in church. The reason why I wanted to read the whole story, just as my dad has shared with me over the years, is I wanted to help us all understand that God is not a stranger to the challenges that we face. In fact, He's not a stranger to our immediate circumstances right now. He knows, He understands, He sympathizes with us, but more importantly, He also brings about opportunity for salvation in the midst of our messes. That's what Christmas is about. We talk about gifts and giving gifts and receiving gifts and sharing gifts, and we get caught up in all the hustle and bustle that surrounds the season, and now we've got added mess in our minds from all the stuff that seems to be going on in the world today. But I want to lend to you free of charge, no interest. You can have it as long as you like. I want to lend to you the hope that I have because of Jesus. You see, Jesus changed my life. and the story of his birth and how God understood and knew how to walk that family through the mess and the challenge of the day for the sake of their safety, for the sake of their well-being, for the sake of their lives, and for the sake of their freedom. I want you to know that God has that for you today. So as you prepare, and as you get the stockings out, and you get everything ready for family to come by, and you take time to reflect upon what this last year has been like, I want you to also take a moment and reflect on the fact that you are deeply and profoundly loved by something beyond anything that might even be tangible. And you can actually know that love by knowing the person of Jesus. I want to leave you with that this evening. I want to wish you a wonderful Merry Christmas. May you be deeply and richly blessed. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.